Hey guys, what's going on? What's going on? It is Thursday. It is time for the Real Biz Life. Hey everybody, what's going on? How are you? Happy Thursday. How do I know it's Thursday? It's Thursday because it's the Real Biz Lifetime. Listen, how's your week been going? How has your week been? I hope you have had a very productive week, an uneventful week, a prosperous week, a profitable week, right? We want it to be productive, prosperous, and profitable. I hope your week has been amazing. It's your chief visionary, Natasha Davis, right here. I'm really excited because every Thursday we get to hang out here in my business lab and we are having the time of our life dissecting the good, the bad, and the ugly. Please make sure that you can hear me. Talk to me if you cannot hear me. Okay, if things are happening and you can't hear me, please let me know. Give me a thumbs up, a thumbs down, put a message in there because I think you can hear me. My technology is telling me you can hear me, so you got to tell me if you can. All right, so what's going on Thursday? So this is a live show, right? And here is where we get to dissect the good, the bad, and the strategy around business, right? And at this time, for a few minutes, I get to transfer some knowledge to you so that you are able to lift the lid off your thinking so that you can explore the greater possibilities for growth and improvement around your business. And I just love that. So remember, if you chat with me, if you drop a message in the chat, I'll chat back. All right. Show me some love. Thank you for joining me today. Definitely excited. And you know what? If you know that somebody should be in this lab with us, don't let them be tardy for the party. Tell them to come join us here in the lab. Don't let them be tardy. Go ahead. You can text them. You can tag them with this. Pick up the phone and call them like, yo, the chief visionary is live. You got to hear what she's talking about today, okay? Because we normalize and simplifies strategic planning around business. And there's so many different aspects of strategic planning that I could do this for days on end. Also, if you have a topic that you're like, hey, Chief, can you dissect this in the lab? Can you talk about this in the lab? Any topic you have or area around business, message me. Let me say, hey, let me look at it. And if you want to dissect it, I will see about dissecting that here in the lab. So drop me a message. You can DM me and I will explore the topic that you want me to dissect here in the lab. All right. So it is time to go inside of the business lab, where we are going to talk about a very interesting topic. Some companies, small, medium, or large, they either don't realize that this thing is happening, or they're unaware, they don't know how to fix it. Maybe it's been going on so long, they don't even know how to fix it. They think that it's not a real thing, or they just think it's competition, it's healthy competition, right? So what am I talking about? I am talking about silos inside of a team, silos inside of the company, silos inside of departments, right? So you can have company, the activities that's happening in the company, those things happen departmentally, and they also happen amongst teams, like pockets of team members. So silos are really, really bad. Okay, they're not good. And some people think that, oh, it doesn't really harm the company. There's no big deal, but it is a big deal because silos are really unhealthy. Like they're isolations. They're unhealthy isolations of people, of systems, of operations, of knowledge. And that's actually the worst. To have a silo where operations and information doesn't exchange in a healthy way, that's actually very, very detrimental to the company. It's actually costly as well. On average, silos will cost the company about $800 per team member. So if you have, whether they're part-time or full-time, that a silo, every time you look at it and you have departmental silos, and you have silos among pockets of teams, or you have an individual that has put themselves into this interesting silo, but it's unhealthy. First of all, it's very unhealthy and it's expensive for the company. I'm going to share with you a couple reasons why. But like I said, you're talking about $800 per employee. Larger corporations have reported over $3.6 million lost because of a silo, because of silos that were not broken down, or because of silos that were not avoided and not addressed. Right now, dealing with silos, I'm going to talk to you in a little bit about how to fix silos and how you can go about breaking them down, but also how to avoid them altogether. So again, a silo is basically unhealthy isolations of individuals, of people, departments, operations, information. Things are being hoarded. And when we have these silos that are being developed, it's creating like duplicity. There's duplicity of work. That means that when you have duplicity of work, that means that you have over expenses. You're spending money several times on the same thing. And that needs to land correctly, right? You're spending money multiple times on the same exact thing. Duplicity, double pay, they go hand in hand. And a lot of times when you see silos, there's this huge amount of duplicity that's happening. I have been hired by companies. We go in and we do an analysis, and I have seen 4 people doing the same job, but that's not what they were hired for. They were hired for different things, but you have 4 people that's working on the same exact thing. They're doing it different ways. They're hoarding information, they're hoarding processes, and it was very hard to watch, because as the leaders in the company, they didn't realize how much they were spending and wasting until we start to shine a light on some things, right? All right, silos also, the impact and the costly expense of a silo also is that in silos, it actually decreases productivity and decreases performance. And you know that in a company, we need productivity and we need performance at a high standard, right? And so when you have a silo, your production drops. Why? Because just like I said, you have 4 people, they're supposed to be working on different things, but these 4 people are working on the same exact thing. Nothing's moving, and they're wasting time because they're recreating the wheel. We are reinventing the wheel. The wheel's already been built, done, set. We done patented the thing. We have perfected it. And you have someone that comes in and decides, oh, I'm going to figure out my own way to do it. Why? Because the person or persons before, there was never a transfer of information, a transfer of knowledge, because it was kept in isolation, right? In this silo. So now I have to go and figure it out again. Now I have to go do it again. Huge, huge, huge financial impact on a company. You also have a lot of wasting time working on the same thing several times over and over again, right? We also have to look at lost information. We would love for every person to stay with a company indefinitely to infinity. We'd love that. But the reality is that's not necessarily true. Why? Because people leave for different reasons. People leave because of illness. People leave because of life change. People leave because they're not happy with the company. People leave because they want more money, or they're being offered more money, or they're being offered some other type of flexibility with their work schedule. They relocate. So people leave companies for various reasons. And unfortunately, in this day and age, finding someone who has been with a company for 10, 15, 20 years, we don't see that as much anymore. So it's imperative that you have very high level of transparency in your organization, but also that there is a streamlined way to transfer knowledge and information. I remember really important, there's a client of ours, and they had this issue. They had hired someone, they came in, and of course they've been with them probably about 4 years or so. And of course the person started thinking, I am alpha and omega of this information, right? Because I'm the only one that knows how to do it. Now the challenge with that is that person misunderstood their role. That's number one. They created a silo for themselves because they felt that they had this specialized information, and they misunderstood how the knowledge transfer should have went. Now, the owner of the company also overlooked, right? They put a blind eye, they never shed light on it, that says, listen, as you're creating these processes, as you're creating these guidelines, these steps, right? You need to document them and put them in a designated repository. Store them in this, this electronic file. I want you to take it out of your head and put it on paper. We need to document the process. So fast forward now, the owner needed to bring in some more people. The previous person, the original team member that was hired, they felt threatened. They thought that someone was coming to take their job. This is mine, all mine, right? And that was actually the opposite. That was the furthest thing from the truth, because as the company was growing, they needed more manpower, right? You need manpower and money to excel and to grow and to acquire more clients. We've talked about that before. So as the company was growing, it's like, hey, we need to bring someone in. The original team member was very territorial with the information. They did not, fighting tooth and nail. They justified that this is my idea, it's my process. And no, the process was designed and created for the betterment and for the use of the company. And so that became a little bit of a thing where that had to be resolved, because the team member really thought that that was theirs, and they did not have to train the next person or educate the next person or document the process. So always keep in mind that when you are expanding and you're hiring more people, or you have like this department, if you start seeing like evidence of isolation of information, of engagement, of communication, interaction, you really need to get in and you need to shuffle it up, break it up some. All right. So there are four types of silos. There are four types of silos, right, that we do need to look at. And when we look at these four types of silos, you're looking company-wide, you're looking within the company, but also you're going to look in layers. You're going to look in layers. So you got the company, and then you're also going to look in the layers within the company. It doesn't matter. The only time that you effectively, and to be honest, what I'm about to say, I'm going to retract it before I even say it. You don't, even if you are a solopreneur, even if you are a solopreneur, even if you are the owner plus one, owner plus two, even if you have a team of 15, 20, or 100, you will always have to be mindful of silos, because silos can happen. They can definitely be created. Even if you are a solopreneur, you can have silos. And let me tell you what I mean by that. Four types of silos that you need to pay attention to, four types of silos that can happen. You have what's called desk to desk silos. So you're thinking about team member to team member, my files, my desk, my information. I remember another client I had, the team member, they transitioned out of the company, and the team member began to literally delete files on the company's computer. They were deleting their own email inbox because they felt that, deleting their email, deleting the inbox because they felt that it was mine. Desk to desk. Those are things that you have to be very, very keen to. In larger companies, most larger companies, because of the amount of policies and the employee book and handbook that they have, and the extent of the orientation that they have, it's been clear. My email, my computer, my files, this belongs to the company. It does not belong to you. Those things are usually translated very effectively. In smaller companies, when you typically have less than 10 team members, that conversation doesn't get translated as clear and as often as it should. So persons that come in, especially if they have an email that has their name on it, sometimes people start using that email for their personal use. I can tell you now at Impact Branding, we make it very, very clear. The email belongs to the company. And I, as the owner, I can go into your inbox whenever I feel like it, because it is my email, because the company pays for it and I'm the owner of the company, right? And so when you have a team that's less than 10, and like Impact Branding, we have a team of just about 10. Once you have that team, that is something you have to make clear. And you have to put that in policy and make it very clear, because when you start thinking of desk to desk, somebody transitions out, you don't have access to their computer because they've locked it. Now you have a computer that's locked. You got to go pay someone to unlock it. Two, the files. You don't have access to the files. You don't have access to the point of contacts that they had. All of these things. So think of desk to desk as like team member to team member. Then you have system to system silos. What do I mean by that? System to system silos. Here's what happens, right? So team member A happens to like this platform that's not even approved by the company. Team member B happens to like that platform that's not actually approved of the company. Each team member creates their own, I should say, login and credentials for the platforms. That is either their personal email or is their company email, but they're the only one that know about the platform. They're the only ones that know about the login, the credentials, and things like that, right? So now you're talking about systems. So information is stored in these systems that are pertinent to the company. And if that person transitions out or has to go on medical leave for any length of time, you have no idea what's in there. You can't access it. So now what you have to do? Recreate it. You have to waste time. There's now duplicity. You have a drop in productivity and you have a waste of money. You have expense and you're expensing money. So do you see why that's important? You have to be very clear. Team members, you are not allowed to create logins and credentials to systems that are unapproved by the company. If you have to create one, you need to make sure you document the login credentials in the standard repository where it's supposed to be, the login repository, things of that nature. There are several tools you can use for that. I know some people are straight old school. You're going to put everything on a spreadsheet. I know some people are diehard spreadsheet people. Put it like this: as long as the owner, the leaders of the company can access the spreadsheet at this particular point, just put it somewhere where everybody can see it. All right. So we have desk to desk, system to system. Now you have department to department. So when you're a little bit, have more departments, you might have the finance department, the marketing department, the HR department. When you have several departments now that you have created or you have within the organization, those department heads have to learn how to interact, because what will happen is these are the conversations that happen. That's not our job. That's not what we do. We've always done it this way, right? So you want to be careful. So the departments have to learn how to blend and engage and interact. They have to play nice in the sandbox. All right. All right. Here's another one: agency to agency. So I want you to think of like vendors, hired support. You go out, you hire vendors, you bring them in. When you have multiple agencies that you have brought in, or other companies you have brought in to support your growth needs and your operational needs, right? Those agencies, then you need to make them aware of each other. Let me tell you, agency A, I have agency B, and this is what they do. Agency B, I have agency A, and this is what they do. Because a lot of times what I have seen is some agencies, because they're fighting for their right to stay on the budget, they cross over and they start dipping over into other people, a lane, and they're duplicating and they're creating work. Now, here's what happens when that happens. Now you have an increase in confusion, because company A that was hired was doing X. Now company B, they're hired to do what they're doing, but now they're doing Y and Z, but now they're dipping over into A's lane and they're doing the task of X as well. Duplicity. So now you're paying two people to do the same thing. It doesn't make sense. So you want to be careful and you want to create clear lines. Agency A, this is what you do. Agency B, this is what you do. If agency B tries to do it, that's not what you do. Please do not do that. I didn't hire you to do that. Just be careful. All right. All right. So let me talk to you a little bit about how to fix it. So if you have identified that you have some silos going on in your life, in your agency, in your company, or anything like that, I want you to work towards cleaning it up. I want you to avoid it, but I also want you to break down the silos, right? So I want you to avoid them, but I also want you to break down the silos. Like, y'all see my shirt? My shirt's too big. I've lost a fair amount of weight, and I just realized my shirt's too big. So my shirt's fighting with me. Shirt's fighting with me today, right? I'm not, this ain't that kind of show, right? So I got to keep it above. I got to keep it above certain line levels because this is not that kind of show. All right. Anyway, let's get back on track. Focus. Focus. All right. So listen, how do we avoid and break down silos? So the first thing we want to do, high level, I want you to definitely schedule these group team meetings, explore everyone's understanding of who does what. Okay, be very careful, especially if you are a small business and you tend to outsource and you have other vendors and companies that do these things. You need to make sure that your vendors learn how to interact, right? Make sure, as you are the leader, make sure your vendors know if you need to copy someone on an email or include someone. Don't keep turning a blind eye if you have a vendor that is purposely or repeatedly excluding another vendor. Be very, very careful. There's a reason why that's being done, because also it eliminates transparency, right? It takes away, when you start having vendors crisscross, transparency elevates and communication flows, right? When you start having vendors purposely eliminating or excluding the inclusion of others, there is a transparency issue that's about to happen. And I can tell you now, the only person that's going to feel that the hardest is the company, is the owner. Okay, so be very careful. So shared vision, you want to make sure that you have like a shared vision exercise, especially with your internal team, your daily operations team. Even when you hire vendors in, make sure they understand what the mission and the vision of the company is, what you do, what you don't do, what you support, what you don't support. Make sure you're very clear. Just because you hire an outside vendor does not mean that they should not be oriented to who your company is, to what your company does and what your company does not do. All right. Exercises with the team, some team building exercises, do that routinely. It doesn't have to be this elaborate thing, but you do need to make sure that there's some form of blending and uniformity. Inside of companies, you should start do cross training through departments, because you increase transparency, you increase exchange of information. The other thing you do is you avoid and break down those silos, that isolation, that mind, that hyper territorial practice, right? You want people to own their role, you want people to own their responsibility, but you want to be careful that there isn't this hyper territorial behavior that now they're like, I don't have to tell anybody anything because it's mine. You want to be careful of that. And I want you to focus on disrupting the norms by empowering change. Empower change. Make sure that when you start hearing, even in yourself, we don't do that because it's always been done this way, or we can't do that, or that can't be done. Be careful. Listen for those things, not only externally, but coming from within. Be very careful about that, right? So, because if you're not careful about that, all you're doing is seeding the ability to accept. You're seeding acceptance of silos. And we already know that nothing good comes out of silos. Nothing. It's very expensive and it's overwhelming and it's unhealthy, right? So one of the formulas that I created and I enjoy educating my team with is when you're whether you're having team meetings or you need to facilitate better engagement within your company, one of the things that I like to talk about is using the teams formula to not only avoid silos, but to break down silos. So what does teams mean? When you are either in a team meeting or you're having like just a huddle or whatever, the key thing, the T, is to talk. What are you doing? You're talking about those common objectives, common goals, and common priorities, right? The mission. Talk about what's the commonality. Make sure everybody's on the same page where we all understand what we're doing collectively, right? No island, right? You're not trying to keep one person on an island, right? You're trying to make sure that we are all together. It's a collective shared vision. That's why we talk about shared vision, right? So that's T, talk about the common goals, the priorities, right? The objectives and the mission. Talk about them. Don't just leave them slapped on a wall somewhere, right? The E is to educate. Educate what? Educate people on your current progress, your current progress. Even also maybe some walls you've encountered, like, hey, I'm working on this, but I'm hitting a brick wall. I'm working on this, but I've overcome and we've accomplished, even if you're making incremental progress. But educate the team on your current progress on the projects you're working on, right? A is appreciate. Appreciate the collective work of each person. Learn how to say thank you genuinely. Thank you for the work you've done. Thank you for going above and beyond. Thank you for showing up, right? Because I can tell you, even when you pay people a salary, sometimes they don't show up. They don't show up physically, and sometimes they also don't show up emotionally and mentally. So when you have your team that's physically present, that's emotionally present, that's mentally present, learn how to say thank you. And when you start seeding that gratitude and that amount of appreciation, it transcends across the whole team. It's that natural culture, right? It's an environment that's ingrained. But again, it starts with the leader, right? All right. M is for metrics. Metrics and results. You want to look at the metrics of your efforts, the metrics of your progress. Look at numbers. If you do not measure what you're doing, how do you know that you're making progress? If you don't know where you're going, how do you know that you've gotten there? Measure and track results. Okay. Pay attention to that. And for S, show some vulnerability. Show vulnerability in a sense of two ways: that you can be supportive of others, show your support, lean in, stand up, stand with, right? Show that support. And also vulnerability to ask for help, ask for insight, ask for guidance, right? So use the team's formula to not only avoid silos, but also to break down silos. Your goal is not to come in with a sledgehammer, bam, we're knocking out silos. That is not what you're doing. But you do, if you've seen silos and you haven't addressed it before, you're going to have to start seeding the opposite of silos, which is uniformity, right? So you have to seed that. Don't go in with a sledgehammer like, from now on, no more silos. Everybody talks to everybody. Rawr. No, don't do that. Don't do that. That will backfire on you. So be very careful with that. All right. So there you have it. That is how you deal with departmental and team silos. I have given you some great information on how to address silos. So use your team's formula, pay attention to what's happening. And if you need your chief visionary for strategy, training, or for speaking, don't hesitate to go ahead and schedule a power chat. You can schedule a power chat. The website there is on the screen. You can go there, schedule that power chat. And also, don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel. Please, Impact Branding Videos, subscribe and like the YouTube channel, please and thank you. YouTube likes that stuff, right? And also, I want you to tell somebody to come hang out with us now. I don't want people to be tardy for the party, right? Tell them to come hang out with us. Come and see us. We're here every Thursday at 9 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Unless I tell you I'm not going to be here, then I'm going to be here, right? And also, if you are catching this on the replay, please put hashtag replay team and I will show you some love. I'll see you next week, Thursday, 9 a.m. Eastern Standard Time for another Real Biz Life live show right here inside my business lab. Please bring a friend with you so that we can all excel together. All right, guys, one love and one heart. Blessings upon blessings, and I will see you next week.